Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting our third session. Before lunch, as we mentioned, the last presentation of the second speaker, as agreed, right after this panel. In this session, in the developments in the steel industry, both currently and for a new era we are facing, and we will have the chance to discuss with our distinguished panelists. I am sharing you the steel pipe founders, Mr. Vedat Yalçın from Sogat Cold Rolling and Galvanized Association President, Mr. Kerem, YISAD Flat Steel Exporters Board Member and Deputy President, Mr. Ahmet, and from Steel Foreign Trade, Mehmet Çakmur. I'm gonna go to my questions rightly, and I will be addressing them in order. But if you want to make a remark or addition, please just share. We would like to listen to you completely. My first question to Mr. Vedat, and I will ask the whole panel. There is a serious shrinking of demand, first pandemic and then war, logistics, energy costs. So there's serious waves and the demand is reduced. Why we are in this situation? From your own industry, what would you gonna say? And regarding the energy prices, I want to ask, but first your assessment. Thank you for your invitation to YISAD and Steel Association. So before the assessment, I will tell what is the steel in the pipe. What is it? The steel pipe is 8 million tons of established capacity. It's a very dynamic industry, as in the Turkey, Central Europe, Middle East, and a leader in the Mediterranean reserve. 85% are small-sized pipes, which are output in the industry, in automotive, construction, furniture. They are used in different industry, and for the big scale ones are generally in the purchased by the state. To give an exact number of this 5 million tons, 1 million tons are big sized pipes, 4 million tons are small sized. Dynamics are very different. What is the demand? Why we're in this situation? How we gonna go out of here? These are two different assessments required. So let's start with the large scale pipes. In 2018 in the world, the US started with Section 2. It was a huge paradigm change. And as an industry, we are familiar with the protection measures. Every year there is a dumping and subvention. So we have all these years, but it was not very radical. All were 25% extra tax all were, and then America said some of our close friends, and then we said let's talk, but they said you are not our close friend, you just stay there. And then in the summer of 2018, 5% more, and today I saw it in Mr. Veysel's presentation how we are stuck in American market. Of course, pandemic on top of this. on this protection. All the countries going to their own countries and caused the external markets to be shut down, and also in the logistic chain was broken. And really, starting from 2011, there is a serious shrink, and there is this, the demand was delayed and the pandemic impact reduced. And when we go to the internal market, the socio-political structure of the country, maybe when we talk about the domestic market, we need to talk about the loan or interest rates or election, and it's not possible to go out of it. But shortly, I can say actually after 2018, we just stuck, and it was nearly 2 million soft tons. And 2020, it was like we didn't become 5 million soft tons, but close to it. Actually, the with the dynamics are very close, and for demand is different. Of course, there is this domestic market, Europe and America. In today's presentation, Mr. Mehmet asked a good question. You always say US America, but then there is the less population. Will you be able to find anyone to sell? Yes, correct, but I don't think it will change in a short period of time. We try to make an opening like the North America, and we got good chances. However, there are specific problems in all of them. For example, finance. If you go with your money, you get better, but in our country, we don't have this chance. The European market is our main market. Actually, it's very stable industry. It's like 40% we have this export. 40% of this 5 million of tons we are exporting. For the next period, actually, I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. And our challenge these days are in our country, especially this mentioned as the disaster of the century, that earthquake. Normally, our supply was not meeting demand, but we tried to cover from other places, and Russia, Ukraine was our potential suppliers. But then there is the paradigm change with that Russian and Ukraine war. So I won't make it long because my friends will also talk. If we can solve the problems of supply, then with the investments to start, if our producers can produce it, I believe it will be very glad to our industry, and together, by hand to hand and shoulder to shoulder, we will continue to fight in the new markets. And I will answer your next question. Mr. Kerem, can we hear from you? Of course, we are going through turbulent times, roughly three factors, and it all includes regional changes or supply and demand, and it increased. We're gonna start from supply and demand. An earthquake came, and then there is the demand to galvanized, but maybe Erdemir went out, and or if you look at to Europe, the demand is not strong, and then blast furnaces are out of scope, and there is being forced measures. So when you look at the protectionism, that's a whole different subject. If you have 13 customers, a problem in one of them, if they don't buy, they have their stores full. But if all 13 of customers is lost because of protectionism, if you cancel, you need to drop the price. Therefore, the example of all these we lived in Turkey, actually our biggest suppliers, the net exporter country, it is Turkey, Russia and Ukraine out of game, European or Korea against anti-dumping, then actually the protectionism is not only about Turkey, and also I said three of them, the energy prices. There is a interesting, I'm just telling these figures to remember, double of the Europe, a developed country, we will fight with them with the electricity and natural gas prices. And during that time, the Far East never got impacted. And in the November, I believe it was three times in the households and then six times in the natural gas. Now we are saying we have been normalized by two times, but still this imbalance with the energy prices, us and Europe in natural gas, still 30% more expensive. So this continuous shaking. Energy is very important for us. We need predictability, and as we are always getting the prices, goods of the next month, we don't know the price of the natural gas next month. A nice development in renewable energy, as much as our established power, we have unmanned renewable energy chances, and this is a good development in energy. I can wrap it up like this. Thank you, Mr. Ahmet. Hello, everyone. I say is the distribution channels. What kind of a problems we have? I would like to say actually we are the final field. So the final field for this process in the
our profit margin is lower compared to the other sections of the process. So when you look at that, when you compare it with the profit margin of a distribution channel, the uh, outputs of the prices are so high. So this is so interesting for us. So in the last years, the prices got stabilized, but and we are predicting stable prices moving forward. But in February we had earthquake disaster, and due to that, in the February we had stopping in our revenues about 10%, 20%, because in the first few weeks everyone was in shock and they thought that what can we do. In the continuation of the February, there are certain things that has laid the manufacturers of containers, etc. And as Mr. Kerem had said, we had an explosion of demand in the cold area. Also, we have seen the continuation of in the month of March, but in the distribution channel, was not something that we encountered in every places. So elongated products sales got stopped. This maybe because of the construction had stopped. So also there is a ban on construction in the earthquake zone. Now only Tokyo has their buildings built on there, and other places are still on hold and waiting. And we have different requests in different places. A square and flat is having more requests. Also, there are three basic factors to improve the business. Now everyone is holding bets. They are waiting for the new government and new economic policies. Also, the imbalance in the interest and exchange rate, because you don't know what you will buy and what you will pay. Everyone has their own currency exchange rate. So the new government should fix the currency exchange because it's a measurement tool, benchmark tool, and currently no one has this. Also, the construction activities in the earthquake zone, I predict that in the fourth quarter they will start again. So when they start, I believe that the works in the distribution channel will go better. So I think that the next year will be a good time for distribution channels. So thank you very much. So Mr. Mehmet, how do you see it in terms of external trade? Maybe the headset is not working, I guess. Hello? Now it's working. First of all, I would like to thank you, YISAD, EUROMETAL, and Still Orbis. And we would like to see it from the foreign trade perspective as the Steel Foreign Trade Association, and the inflation due to the war. We have started to feel the slowing of economy made by developed countries, and the interest rates rose. And we have started to feel that now the building prices are going down in America, and the steel prices are still not that bad, but the demand and the activity is getting slower. And our biggest basket in terms of that is Europe, and the slowness in the Europe, it started to shrink our export, as I've seen in the gentleman's presentation. The 2023 will ongo like this, and they expect a build up in Europe in the next year, and we hope to be more active in Europe in the next years. But still, we for now we have to continue like this. And when we say still, we have to talk about China for everything to uh, get well, recover. The China has to recover, because with their prices and their activities, it's hard for the market to get to positive, because everyone expects how low can it get. They think that, people think that, and while there's such a mindset, it cannot be expected for anyone to look positive or invest in that. So generally, the Far East has to make a movement, maybe in terms of capacity, maybe measurements. So we have to stop the prices from fluctuating, to have everyone to see where they are going and return to their own jobs. It seems like in the second and third quarter will be hard in terms of foreign trade, with the increase of the costs. Our imports are increasing somewhat, and I think that it will balance out at some point. Maybe in the next year we won't be talking about this that much. But 2023 seems to be a hard year for now. So the war has also affected our foreign trade, and it's affected us in both ways. And you know the area well because you have connections. No, I don't know anymore. I have no connection with them for now. So what do you expect? The imports got lower from Russia, and import from Ukraine has started. I thought that it got lower, but according to Mr. YISAD's presentation, it seems like in 2023 it increased a bit. But of course, we talked with the Russian people, and we also talked with our colleagues in Ukraine. No one has any idea when the war will end or what they should do. It seems like it will be everlasting. So for it to end, and of course certain powers doesn't want this war to end, and they support for the continuation of the war, and I think that the war will be in our agenda for a while now. And what I think is, at the first parts of the war, there were supply from Russia, but in the last 5 6 months they are under pressure. And the factory I was talking to, they said that they never exported for the last 7 months or so. And I asked them, "What do you do?" They said that we are so satisfied, we work full capacity, and but we don't export, and we don't think about exporting. In our projections, we don't think about exporting, and it is a good signal for Turkey on one side. On the other side, for Turkey, the Russian-Ukraine was a resource, and we are a processing country and having the material coming there, and by processing that we used to do export. It's an advantage but also a disadvantage. There's a flow of materials from Russia, but after the last events it will shrink, it seems. So Russia and Ukraine cannot be seen in our window, I suppose. Thank you very much, Mr. Kerem. You talked about the energy cost. I want to return to that. So the price measurements, price settings is about showing the debt and having them accept the disease. So what do you think about that? There's a need for change. What do you think on that? You talked a bit about on this, but do you have anything to add? I don't know. We can't supply all of our energy requirement by ourselves. So in the iron and steel industry, we need energy, we need scraps, etc., from outside, and we are dependent to the foreign forces. And I don't think that we can do it all alone. And there could be a temporary policy change because of the election economy in the pricing policies to the households, etc. But also inflationist pressures are important. But we have certain ticks that will not have our industry lose their competitiveness. The balance between the households and industry is important. With higher energy prices compared to Europe and higher natural gas prices compared to Europe, we cannot expect it to compete with Europe in terms of galvanizing. And we also need to be able to predict the future energy pricing. And otherwise, we play lottery, we just make guess. And having the current account deficit in such a country, it's hard thing to, it's a bad thing to prevent predictability. So predictability is important. I mean, what our problem is that we can't predict dollar exchange rate or anything else. I hope that this process ends soon, and we are expecting that to end. It's for the local, but also in global. The pandemic broke all of these. The guardianship measures got so high they got normalized. But also my colleagues said that in on paper it's like that, but is in reality it's like that. So this is what we encounter a lot. So I hope that we return to normal, including energy prices. Do you have anything else to add? Or we will proceed to the next question. Now, I will continue with export. So, the protectionism is a serious uh, thing about our business, and I don't think that it's good for us, and I don't think anyone in our audience likes that. Also, the efforts to prevent export with green transformation in Europe there is, and in this pressure for uh, protectionism, were we able to have new markets for us, and when the China returned to its internal market and Russia got blocked, we hoped that in situation like that we would have an open road in front of us, but it didn't turn out like this. So where can we find the hope? What do you think? Let's start with Russia. So we can't we can substitute Russia, and when if you look at their export, they generally have semi-finished products. They export semi-finished products, and they have slab, etc. They export that, so we can substitute these or enter to their market. We don't have any competition in there. So closing of to Russia did not give us an advantage or gave us a green light for these markets. Turkey, of course, when we say green production, is really has an advantage position. So about 70% of our production is made by the ARC uh, exactly, and with the latest decision of the Eurofan, so if the scrap prices remain high, we will have problems with competitiveness. So we will get to 60 million tons, and we need 40 million tons raw materials if we produce up to that point, and we will have troubles in that. Or with this restriction, even if we find that we will have problems with that. Also, America constantly makes investments in that. They make mini mills. They try to find ways to use their own scraps. They no longer have access to scrap. There is no growth there. They remain with the same amount of scrap. So it's not that advantageous for Turkey. As a steel foreign trade association, we thought that our goal as the new markets. So the most promising market is Africa, so of making the aspect that we make to Europe or America cannot be compared with Africa. Also, we have to be there now for marketing. So Turkey has to take responsibility and has to build marketing networks like the China. We have to be in there, and it's not something that we can sell afar. We do it with international traders there, but still they buy where the advantages in. So it seems like the Africa is the most meaningful choice. And as a country policy, developing Africa and exporting that, we have to establish lines and we have to go deep in there. Otherwise, we could lose the pie in there because China has started working for that. While we can't send a vessel with container, they are sending their materials in bulk to the furthest points, and the Steel Association should get together and work on this, I think, because the Europe markets, American market will not grow, and we are making constant investments. and we are predicting that we will export 50% of that because there's no such consumption in Turkey. For solution, everyone should work. So in the future, it doesn't seem that we have a market that could sell that much of a capacity. Mr. Kerem, Mr. Ayhan said that in Europe there should be localized sales points in Europe. Yeah, of course, export is a problem for us. So scrap is not our work, but we should talk about it maybe. What we think is that we are just adjacent to the Europe. We have to. We have an iron and steel industry that uses scrap efficiently. But what I see in our colleagues that they said that why do you do this to me, would you do this to me, etc. But what we do is we do that because of not wanting to lose our competitiveness, because that's the rule of the economy. Without emotions we should use logic, and as a win-win logic we have to make bargains, make connections like this. We should make the correct decisions. So I will just pass to our export markets. Africa is good, and I think that our next generation and their children will earn their pay from Africa. But now in the import in the global scale, there is European Union and America, and we are outside of these markets, but still we are adjacent to them in terms of economically, and also in terms of heart we are adjacent to them, but still we can't benefit from them. And when we look at that, these markets are the most suitable markets for us. We can compete in Africa with our costs, we with our services, with our quality. We have an iron and steel industry that can compete in America, for example. But still, let's develop Africa. Let's have our distribution network from Indonesia to Madagascar. But first of all, by emphasizing the win-win relationship, we should improve our relationship with Europe and America. It's not like this that we should do what they say. No, this is for the benefit too, as I mentioned at the beginning of my conversation. So we have seen their problems in supply network after COVID-19, in COVID-19, and we have seen what they experienced with China. We have we have lost our export amounts from 30 to 45% in galvanized, in cold steel, etc. But what I mean is we should use this opportunity. We should convince our ministry to open the way. And I think that we will be able to reach a point with this. And especially in America, you mentioned the section 232. And of course, we want to return to normal. But in the section 232, no, America got us disconnected. They interrupted us in the section 232. It means that giving tags we can't hear ourselves. No, America is coming, yeah. By giving taxes, they won't let us say that. Should we change it? Mr. Karam, I'm not doing that. I'm not America. So 75% of the imports are imported without tax. So I have to mention the danger here. We want to return to normal, but this has become a status quo for America. Uh, so that's what I wanted to say. Let's continue with that. They do something to us. What they did, they were dropping iron bars from the sky, right? So before America, I think that it would be more beneficial to have a relationship with Europe to get better. But when I think that is the problem lies with Europe or us, uh, I think that the Europe is not honest. I'm not that uh, expert, but our first relationship and agreement with the European Union started in the 1984. Is the late Inona got scared and did not sign, and they got him convinced that we can leave anytime we want. This was the time that we signed it, and from that day we are at the doorstep. We had fireworks uh, in the Ankara, but still now the 15 years has passed. I don't know as a geographical, socio-political, uh, and I believe that Turkey's place lies with European Union, and I think that we have neglected our homework, and I hope that the new term will be a starting point for that. I believe that in 2003 and the AKP government, they had chapters, they had agreements, they were trying to converse, but we can see that the most inputs were made in these years. Now they are gone as they don't do direct investments. Also, we are at the point that we can do anything to have money flow, but still, even if they don't want it, we have to follow that ideal. I think that it's a paradigm for its establishment. We have to, if we turn to that direction, we have still a long way to take that. Also, the new countries, etc., should not be neglected, including Africa. And I have to say a few words, maybe as there are specific topics you don't know with the Russian Ukrainian war. There was a problem about grain of a neighbor, Egypt. You all, everyone knows our relationship. They have 30 billion ton per year consumption, and they export 20 billion tons. And now they have a new data project in Egypt in the 7,000 square meters from the east and 3,000 on the east. They have a total of 10,000 square kilometers area that they will plant. And now the Turkey is their sole supplier, but we can't give them any grains because they don't have the foreign money for that. And I went to ministry directly, and they told me that after the election we will look into it. The similar things is in the Morocco again. The irrigation projects are being worked on there. And if we look at the statistics, our supplier, our members, they are giving them serious amount of pipes there. So about green transformation, the hydrogen, we see it as an important point. The transmission of the hydrogen is an important topic. We have to get prepared for that, and we should warn the inform people about that. Do you have anything in addition? And also, I would like to ask you, while the prices fluctuates like this. Now, after the earthquake, they rose. Now they are going down. How do you define the uh, supply? How do you plan your future? So we just toss a coin? No, of course we don't that. So in the COVID duration, we got in connection with student connection in our manufacturing uh, customers. Also, European unions had they started sending materials, raw materials, semi-finished products to the Europe, while the Europe had quotas. One of the saving graces for the Turkey is the production industry. I think when I look at the Europe and when I say that how can you send product to the Europe? How? Because of logistics. When they ask for product from us, we can produce in a week and we can send them in a short time. Also, one of the greatest feature is the Turkey's level in the metal processing sector. When we look at this, Turkey in the CNC and to laser in etc., Turkey is too advanced in that area, and by using its advantages, Turkey can increase its capacity. Of course, this will not be a solution, but I think that it will add something to the solution. So our biggest problems is the in all producers in the manufacturing chain. We have to do a fair. We are doing. We should do fair trades. We have problems in uh, due dates. Of course, we had problems about earthquakes, etc., COVID, but also we should keep our prices rational and logical. While the preventive measures are not enough, and we want, in addition to that, at the end of the day, our prices should not be that different from the world prices. Of course, I understand that the our domestic producers, of course, they are not. The energy prices are different, but still, so if my customers start with $900 and the producer in the China starts with $600, we can't talk about a fair trade. For us to gain the whole sector, the government should regulate the energy cost. Also, competitive conditions should be created in the market, and they should reach to the manufacturers, and they should be able to send their products to the European and America by having their added value. But to do so, we have a responsibility, and such a platforms are important for development. So pricing, how do we do the pricing? So we can't really predict the correct time. So in 2012 we had COVID, then we had Russia-Ukrainian war, now we had an earthquake. When we look at that, I got my lessons from that. The biggest lesson there that I earned is that without panicking and deciding without panicking in any adverse event. So, for example, there was a war between Ukraine and Russia, and the sheet plate wouldn't come, we understood, but then we purchased sheet plates from high prices. But then, while they got deactivated, they got disregarded. The China sold us, and we saw the prices getting better over time. Also, we shouldn't think short term, we should think long term. This is one of the lessons that we had to get. Also, while following the prices, we shouldn't move with the local prices, local updates. China is a factor that should be looked up to, but now China is a real factor. We used to see the prices in China getting low, but I think that all of the market is influenced by China a lot, and I think that we should look into it more. And as a distribution channel, what can we do? Network, what can we do? We should have multiple suppliers, so we should purchase over multiple suppliers. But in the earthquake, we saw that this was not also right. Maybe we should choose suppliers. They make manufacturing in different areas. For example, they have production centers in Aegean and Iskandar or Black Sea and Aegean region. So in that case, if there are any problems in anywhere, uh, we should use that, because if they have different production locations, we can use that, and also we should consider that while making a choice. Also, there should be a capacity for imports. While whatever you do, you should be importing a certain amount of products that you will use. Also, as a distribution network, you should have profit realization and stop loss levels, because our biggest mistake is that while the prices are going uh, and but my cost is lower, while thinking that would the material go up. So I think that this is one of the worst things that the distribution networks do. We should set certain things, but not only that, when we reach that set levels, we should im- implement realize that decision. Well, Mr. Vedat, do you have anything to add? I would like to mention the danger of. I think that in my colleagues, there's a danger. We are walking in the walk of being the industrial merchants. One of my colleagues said that you are looking for opportunity rather than efficiency. If we place the buying at the correct time to our main focus, we would lose many things. I think that we would be like the gamblers that are trying to win the casino. But if we try to beat the system like this, we should stop being producers and we should play for economics and markets in Shanghai, etc. So we should define our focus points correctly. Of course, that's important. Of course, that's correct. But how will we do it, Mr. Vedat? If you would allow, let's continue with you. You meant that 80% is the big sized pipes and the rest of them are small sized pipes. So we are talking about a shrinkage in pipe manufacturing. You also mentioned the status of the request. So, what do you think about the demand on these pipes? Do you have any expectations for that, or would it continue like this? Expectations, of course, we have expectations. No expectations, no life after all. And in our large scale pipes and our biggest problem in the internal market is that our costs are with the dollars, foreign currencies, but our sales to our public, etc., sales, including intermediaries, are in Turkish lira. So we have to find our way to remedy this, but we can't now. How can we fix it? I don't know. In the direct purchase of the public, we don't know. governmental uh, government and selling to that is undefined. When they say stop, you stop, and when they stop you, they don't compensate you. If you have adapt to public to government, when you not pay for a month, uh, your debt is defined, you have to pay it. But on the reverse, you can't demand anything from them, and the equivalency doesn't work like this. Our tenders used to be in dollars, but I guess in 2018, our president decided that the government's purchases will be with Turkish lira, and there are times that the tenders are getting wasted, or our guarantee payments are lost. But we can't have the sector stay upright with external market, and I don't know that in the sector that I represent. I know that it's important to stabilize the internal market. Also, in the external market, we have other problems in large scale pipes. In large diameter pipes, logistics is important thing to consider. As the large diameter pipe sellers of Turkey, we produce domestically and selling to others. Now we started to sell at the location. We have producers in Europe, Africa, and America itself. So the on-site production, I mean the at location production, is important thing. I'm telling this because you specifically asked about this. I think that on location production will expand our horizons, will give us new ways to do our business. The standards in America, Africa, etc. It's known that how does the uh, in America, it's known that how certain things are working, but while America is certain, Africa is not, because in Africa the rules are even changing. So rules change overnight. But to do so, you can't do it alone. You have to do it with the public authority, with common strategies. And while it's Europe. We said that Europe is our main market, and my colleagues also have told that we cannot disregard this. And the Africa is close to us, but still, they have a Chinese company there, and they also have government backing. They take Africa's materials and they take away them. But I thought that if we were able to find a way, our way in Egypt, for example, we would produce even more, we would sell even more. But there is an unknown mechanism, and so we have to try, we have to work harder on that. We have to show the way to others with our solutions. We have to go with the public authority. We have to work hard. And whatever we talk, we understand and we learn that we need more interest, more fatherly care. No, that's not what I mean. I just mean fairness, equality, etc. The government should be fair. If they are moving for the benefit of the country, they will always find a solution. Mr. Kerem, about your sector, I would like to ask. Of course, there are new investments, but in the galvanized steel, the established capacity and the capacity establishment, what is the latest situation what do you predict for the future? There are always new investments. Our sector is going non-stop, but
the demand side, we cannot read it now. We have 5.3 millions of capacity, and on top of that, our colleagues regarding their new. So only in galvanize 6.7 million tons of capacity we are going to, unfortunately, the limited internal market automotive 1.23 million times, and and 450 tons from radiators they are using. But when you pile them up, the number of the consumption is 3.3 millions of tons. Unfortunately, it was 4.7 millions of tons. Last year it becomes 3 millions of tons. Therefore, here, of course, there is this always import. It has to be maybe for cheap products. And what is lacking is export, which our industry needs. And I won't repeat myself, but the main problem is galvanized in cold rolling, in the painted ones, and we will see it in the cold as well, hot in rolling in well. But there is a time we will need export. Thank you. While the floor is yours, then there was a topic we talk in the morning. I asked to Mr. Veysel in European Union this green transformation process. There are many grants for energy investments, but on the other hand, there is the AKCD agreement. And we cannot get what we deserve. So do you believe we can solve this with European Union? So the topic of the green transformation and carbon, are we going to find this? First is support and then the green transformation. Without a support, you cannot think this. But sometimes I believe we are supporting them more than it deserves. You should follow European Union is actually supporting greatly, and you can, from the announcements of the companies, you can see it. And in the iron and steel, it's not the truth that Europe doesn't make it. Our ministry is working on them. Actually, it's our ministry will talk with the European Commission, and there will be the positive. And I can say it without change. In the green transformation, it's in the regulation in the border is opportunity, and Mr. Uğur mentioned technologically with carbon, etc. They want to establish their industry. We can say this is an opportunity. We want to make this first is we need to establish our own commission, and the amount of the tax should be equal with Europe. Otherwise, every dollar we pay, every euro we pay is a loss from our national income. And it should be paid where it is used, and these funds to be used for. So for years, the Europe is doing like that. And without this, it will be the green transformation. Hopefully, we can make it. And it should be transparent, but it cannot be without. Actually, if Europe does, why can't we do it? Why we can make it? We should not discuss every time. It is something needed to be solved between the governments, and we should pay attention to this, and we should not ignore this. And this, it should be organized from top. Unfortunately, we don't have this neither in the incentives. We should have it. Only the state can make it. No one can do it as the private industry. When that's not the case, we will talk these in every meeting. Today for galvanize, tomorrow for other thing. So we are producing the same thing. We will always discuss this. So we need to have a planning from an upper mind. Where are we going? What will be the story of the steel? What we want to see in Turkey 10 years after, and then we need to make a route map, because what we talk China, India, Korea, when we talk about them with these 10 years and 20 years of plans, we should make this, and we cannot go anywhere always going with copy paste. In the 5 years of strategy plans. So they are going with the strategy documents, playing action plans, and then we are not looking to that and where it goes. So I want to add one more thing actually is 500 billions of dollars of export. We made an effort on that. It was very serious. However, whoever, how much we remember, I think this is our problem as Turks. We am like Turks, and so we have a special pipe sections, and we try to support it, and we paid serious prices, and maybe it can be a start. So exporters union, and but I believe this should not be like waiting, make a plan and we can go after. As the industry representatives, we should make our plan and then go for the confirmation. So we should not lose time, and I see it important because in the where the Turkish steel and industry, we need a new macro plan as a state. I believe in my industry, I represent 5 to 10 millions of dollars. So it's not a small figure. I should add this, Mr. Vedat. We started as a steel industry, steel foreign trade. We read a few people together and we looked after where are the mistakes or why it didn't happen. Actually, it's a very valuable report, and I know that we had this project. However, no one dealt with that after the first 10 years. It's just made and put on the shelf. Mr. Mehmet, there's something else. The same topic. with different fields they are working. We need to make it together. It should be one person and we should support it, whoever it is, as I remembered, but someone should be leading and all of us should know that he's working on that and we should support it. I hear from you this still foreign trade. You say we are working, it's great, but if we can make it the whole industry, then it is valuable because it's with some macro plan it was made. It was an objective of Turkey, and to walk through that objective, where you can go, they asked to the steel industry, and the steel industry said we can walk to that, and then it can start and go. And I believe it is very important. If you don't make this macro plan in the micro plans, everyone goes to different places, and you cannot make it. Should be some vectoral. I believe all of us should have a perspective from a certain point of view. Some of them work through south, some of them go to north. Then we cannot get result because the vectoral addition is zero. Not only in my industry, but also in other industries. I see this, I witness this. This is really a high level of presence. I believe here this can be succeeded. Thank you. One final question, and then if there are questions from the hall, we will get from them. We want to get rid of this election, and after the election, there is a serious expectation in everyone, and there is the global economical developments, and then there is the steel demand, and there is a banking problem in US, whether a crisis or not. In the second half of the year, maybe they might have problem in giving loans. What kind of a, I know you are not optimistic, but what kind of a market are you waiting for? But if we wrap up what we talk all in the raw materials, in the products, and through the industries for the margins of profit, what do you expect? In order to answer this, first we need to make a comment about the election. I wouldn't like to ask that, but if you want to say, so I believe this uncertainty will be more certain under every conditions, whatever they will be elected. For me, I think so. Of course, the new government in their programs, this will change. However, what will happen specifically, I cannot say. But maybe regarding the money politics, the money politics today, I don't believe it will continue. And when it is over, I believe many topics will go into normal. It's an expectation. Maybe I'm just saying what I expect as a wish. It is also possible. It is also important when you look at many, they want to make the indicator interest, for example, if the interest reduces, the inflation would reduce. That was the politics, and it is continuing. And then there is a serious, it has a serious burden, and it's only my opinion. And I believe it's impossible to continue. When we get back to normal, it will be much more foreseeable. It will be such an environment, and we will get better results. That's my opinion about it. Therefore, I'm optimistic but also cautioning. Thank you so much, Mr. Kerem. Turkish defense industry is the political development And when we look at the industry and defense for years, independent of the political developments, we are working very flexible. However, in this recent times, especially the reach to currency, as I mentioned, all the inputs are based on currency. So the reason we cannot make TL based sales, that's the biggest problem. And right now, I said we can act immune or independent, but this much problem in access to currency led us to get either you should accept the cost when you turn into currency, or 4 or 5% of additional cost, or you should be exposed to Turkish liras in a dollar industry. We want to be safe from it. It's very clear, I guess. For internal market, I would like to share, like everyone says, the biggest problem. We are trying to pay the dollar, so everyone is trying to, they don't know what to do with those TLs. I believe one of the biggest risks is that Turkey is returning to 90s, and we are giving two gaps. One of them is current account, and then there will be a development in the interests. So it's 4 to 5%. Therefore, we are living an environment which we hadn't for years, and people are trying to earn money from money because there is a nearly 30% of interest. So while you do a job, you don't have any income tax exemption. It is difficult to make 20% dollar profit, I believe. This is one of the things which will prevent the jobs to be opened, and the only good thing can be, as of the end of the year, the houses to be built again. I believe it will make the internal market good, and it will continue in 2024, but both for interest, and it will have a difficult time, I believe. Thank you. Of course, it's very difficult to make. We know that whoever comes, they need to fight with this inflation. It is not an acceptable economy, and fighting with inflation can only be with one method. It can only be shrinking. No other method in countries like us, which means that we will go a problematic time, whatever you understand from that. In foreign trade, we don't expect big changes. Our European friends also said we don't expect a big opening with these interest increases. Actually, they also don't want. They want to make the inflation a certain period, and as long as this interest raise increases in the third world countries, the money is getting more expensive, and in foreign trade, it won't be a positive. If nothing new happens every year, it will continue like this 2023, but starting from 2024, these developed economies, if they can push the inflation, maybe with the start of the growth, we will be much more relaxed and more chance to do business. Turkey, whoever comes, whatever economic politics, if 300 billions of dollars, we will talk a totally different Turkey. Thank you to distinguished panelists. Is there any question from the hall? Can we get the microphone to him, please? The microphone is coming. Not a question, but being within that 500 billions of dollars, it is like the local story of Nasreddin Hoca. He was an Ottoman guy, lived in the old times, so he was always subjected to the comic stories. Like in that, if you ask every industry what would your be objective is, then this objective could be reached. Actually, it all started like that. But if some said let's make it 500, then we had to sign for that empty thing. I'm very sad when I hear this because it's like, interest is a reason, and everything we talk, the problems of, we cannot make comment on elections, but everything will be better afterwards in the maybe next conference, hopefully. Thank you. Any other question or remark? Mr. Tunjay, please. I want to remind something non-topic. Today it is birthday of Mr. Murat. Let's applaud him separately. Thank you. You are very kind. Any other questions or comments? Now then we thank our distinguished panelists